You ever have a moment where someone tries to put you in your place only to find out they never had a clue where you'd been? That's how this whole story started. Right there in the plushest corner of Manhattan's most pretentious restaurant, with a billionaire CEO thinking he'd get a laugh out of humiliating his waitress. And let me tell you, when Jack Anderson ordered his financial advice with a side of sparkling water, never even glancing up from his phone, I could practically feel the storm clouds gathering over his $7 billion head. You want a hook? There it is. This man had no idea who he was messing with. Now, my name's Christina, or at least that's what they call me at La Belle Epoque, where every table is a battlefield and every customer is a boss. I've been on my feet for 8 hours straight, my brain half on autopilot, when I came to his table. "I'm sorry, sir. That's not on our menu." My voice stayed smooth polished, but my eyes, well, I've always had a hard time hiding what's really going on behind them. He finally looked up expecting a pushover, no doubt, or maybe someone who'd blush and stammer. Instead, he got me. And for a second, his whole act slipped. "It was a joke," he said, showing off a platinum card. "But since you mentioned it, where would you invest $1 million in today's market?" Let me back up. SEC Jack Anderson was infamous. 33 years old, ruthless, always bored, always looking for a new game. Folks at the restaurant whispered about him like he was a ghost story. Still, I kept my gaze level. I diversify 40% into emerging market ETFs focused on sustainable energy, 30 in undervalued mid-cap stocks, 20 in municipal bonds, 10% liquid for opportunities. Said it like I was reciting a grocery list. The half-smirk froze right on his face. For the first time that shift, I saw genuine surprise, not the kind you see on Wall Street, but the kind that says, "Wait, what?" He put down his phone. "That's specific. Did you read it somewhere?" "Nope," I said, "just my opinion." "Now your order." He leaned in, suddenly interested. "Explain the emerging market rationale." I had other tables, but he waved over Pierre, the maitre d', and declared I was being borrowed for a business discussion. 5 minutes, he promised. Make it worth your while. It was the kind of arrogant move that should have made my skin crawl, but instead, I found myself sitting down across from him, knowing damn well I was pushing my luck. "Finance major?" he guessed. "Something like that." I fussed with the silverware, avoiding his gaze. "Columbia, NYU. But does it matter?" "You asked as a joke." I answered. He laughed. "Fair enough. You caught me being annual, you caught me. But now I'm genuinely curious." Then he asked about sustainable energy and why emerging markets. I told him Western markets are bubbling over with green investment, chasing limited returns. Developing countries, they need infrastructure, offer tax incentives, less red tape, and better growth. Jack's eyes went sharp, the way a predator's do when they see something new in the wild. "Who are you?" he asked. "Just a waitress with an interest in finance." I managed a small smile, professional mask locked in place. "Now your order?" He named his meal and my name, too. Christina Matthews. I walked off, but I could feel his gaze following me, dissecting me. When I came back with his water, he was different. "Call me Christina," thanked me. There was a flicker of something in his eye, surprise, maybe, or respect. I barely had time to process it. All night, he watched me measured, calculating. I handled rowdy brokers, delivered overpriced steaks, ignored every attempt to get a rise out of me. When he left, the tip was $5,000 on a $300 bill. "Consulting fee," he called it straight-faced. I tried to refuse, insisted. "And I'd like to continue our conversation professionally." I slid his car back, trying to keep things clean. "I don't think that's appropriate." Scared, cautious. He left me his private number, scrawled on a business card. "Call me if you change your mind." Now, let me tell you, waitressing doesn't often give you moments that change your whole life. But this was one. That $5,000 was the exact amount I needed for next semester's tuition. It felt like fate, or maybe a setup. My friend Mia teased me about it, sure. "Financial advice, really? Men like that only want one thing from waitresses," she said. But not this time. Not even close. That night, I walked 5 blocks to the subway, thinking about Jack Anderson, the nerve of him, the offer, the way he looked at me like I was a riddle. A rejection email pinged, "In financial aid denied." The $5,000 would keep me afloat, but just barely. I stared at Jack's card, debating if I should just disappear into the crowd, pretend none of this happened. Instead, I called. He answered on the second ring. That was faster than I expected. He wanted to meet these office at 3. I hesitated, asked what this was about. Let's just say, I need someone who thinks differently. He offered business, nothing else, and the confidence in his voice was steady. When I arrived, the receptionist all but sneered, but sure enough, I was on the schedule. Jack's chief of staff, Mercer, looked at me like I was the help escorted me through glass-walled corridors, past analysts hunched over their glowing screens. It was like walking into a lion's den. Jack greeted me, all confidence and tailored suits. Up there in his world, I felt every inch the outsider. If you want to know who I really wascalled, make sense of how a community college waitress could out-analyze his Ivy League team, I stuck to the truth as best I could. I read a lot, but he knew. He pressed a button, and a hidden panel slid open, revealing a screen of investments per IPO, risky, the sort of things people lose fortunes on. My team's divided. What do you think? I started sorting the data, piecing together the puzzle. 3 companies had strong fundamentals. 2 were overhyped. But only supposedly promising green energy firm was pure fiction. Too smooth a growth curve. Energy consumption didn't add up. Classic fraud pattern. Jack was stunned. You just saved me $100 million mistake. He offered me a job consultant, exclusive 7-figure package. I nearly laughed. I can't, I said. But even as the word left my mouth, every instinct screamed to say yes. He wouldn't let it go. Why not? You're hiding, but from what? Eventually, I told him I made enemies in finance. It's safer to stay invisible. He offered anonymity, a contract under pseudonym, remote work. It was everything I needed. Against my better judgment, I accepted conditional, pending contract review. For 2 weeks, life was surreal. I worked as CM, diving into cases from my apartment, only coming to the office for critical meetings. Jack kept my secret. The pay covered tuition, rent, gave me my first night's sleep in years without nightmares. The work woke something up in Maya part that had been asleep since before everything fell apart. Then the trouble started. In a meeting, I flagged another potential fraud. Mercer, the chief of staff, wasn't having it. He accused me, challenged my credentials, demanded to know who I really was. And then, the hammer drop he'd had run a deep background check. Christina Matthews only exists as of 3 years ago. Before that, nothing. No records. No history. Jack called him out, defended me. But after the room cleared, he asked me straight, was it true? Yes. I braced for the fallout. He guessed the rest. Elena Christina Wright, former senior analyst at Blackwood Financial. I'd been set up in an insider trading scandal, disappeared before the SEC could finish their investigation. My fiancé, Robert Blackwood, had framed me to cover up his own crimes. Jack listened, really listened, as I spilled the truth how I'd uncovered fraud at Blackwood, confronted Robert, trusted him to fix it, only to wake up to a nightmare. Fake signatures, stolen credentials, offshore accounts in my name. My world went up in flames overnight. And everyone, even my own family, believed the Blackwoods version. Instead of turning me in, Jack surprised me. He saw through the lies. He'd always doubted the official story. You have more integrity than anyone I know, he said. He wanted to fight back, to help me prove my innocence, to take down the Blackwoods. For the first time in years, I felt hope. So we planned. Worked nights, combed through records, built a case. We found others analysts Blackwood had destroyed the same way. Piece by piece, we put it together, risking everything for a shot at the truth. When Robert Blackwood approached Jack, trying to trap him into a partnership that would give him access to Anderson Capital's secrets, we played along. Used their own gala, the annual charity event at the Met, as our chance to get inside. Walking into that gala, arm in arm with Jack, dressed to vanish into the elite crowd, was like dancing on a wire above the city. I could feel Robert's eyes, could feel the threat in every handshake, every fake smile. But the plan worked. While Jack created a scene downstairs, I slipped upstairs, hacked into William Blackwood's private server, picked a lock, found USB drives with evidence dated the very day my life blew up. I barely made it out. Security nearly caught me, but Jack's timing was perfect. When we reviewed the data, there it was: emails, records, even audio of Robert and William plotting to frame me, to destroy my credibility, all to protect their empire. This was the vindication I'd been denied for 3 years. When the evidence hit the news, Blackwood Financial collapsed. Robert and William were led away in handcuffs. My name, Elena Wright, was finally cleared. But the real twist? I wasn't the same person I'd been before. Everything I'd lost made what I had now more precious: me freedom, my reputation, and yes, Jack Anderson. One night, standing in his office as the news played, Jack took my hand. "What now?" he asked. For the first time in forever, I looked forward free. "I want to build something honest with someone who saw my value when I had nothing." Jack smiled, pulled me close. "I think that can be arranged." So yes, sometimes it takes losing everything to find out who you really are. And sometimes, when you least expect it, you find exactly the right person willing to fight for you no matter what it costs. Let me ask you this. When it comes to justice, what would you risk for the truth? Tell me your story in the comments. Who deserves a second chance? And who should pay for their lies? Your voice matters, Hurry, so don't just watch. Join in.